Hey guys, so I'm so excited for you guys to see this footage of Mr. Kodi. So Kodi is a pretty purebred husky, and what they do is scream sometimes when they don't get what they want. And he was definitely a screamer. So prior to this moment here, we had put him in a couple crates and he would start screaming. We had tried to put him in a room and he would eat the wall and the baseboards off of it. He would just go into a full on tantrum mode and a little bit of separation anxiety, just kind of panic. So I put the e-collar on him and set it to vibrate, and he started to get whiny and a little crazy, and I would just boop vibrate the collar, and that was enough for him to just be like, all right, I'm good. So then I did some layering. I brought a dog out, and had her pace back and forth. And overall, he was just like, all right, cool, I won't scream anymore. And eventually he laid down. And again, it was just set to vibrate, didn't have to do too much. And it pretty much knocked that behavior out pretty quick. So then I was like, all right, let's just do some basic boundary work since Huskies are not very good with those at times. He's still wearing the collar. So this was a good integration of this may be a tool he needs when it comes to the screaming and the eating things when he's alone, because that can be hazardous to him as well as our ecosystem of our home. The other dogs in the daycare, when the screaming was happening, became pretty excitable. They became kind of panicked. It kind of set everybody off. So it was important for us having such a large amount of dogs to get it under control. So I'm doing a little bit of confidence building with him wearing the collar after he was just kind of submerged in it in those moments. So we're doing some basic boundary work. He was moving towards the door. So I was communicating with him like a good solid no marker, and he would get the picture really fast. So once he got up, I just did the vibrate again, and he was like, all right, I'm good right here. And then there is someone on the other side of the door, which you'll see me start to interact with them. And this is what happens when a dog gets a boundary that they don't like, but they understand, okay, I can't do that right now. He becomes a little shut down. So through this process, noticing how shut down he is, I want to do a lot of confidence building layered in, because again, we may need this tool for him long term to be to be able to coexist without the screaming behavior. So I do quite a few things. I take it off and I put it on. When he kind of just goes into submission mode, I do a lot of petting, a lot of coaxing. There are some points where he comes over to greet me, and you'll see I almost always pet him under the chin when he's standing or sitting, because this is it's like a physical confidence builder. It lifts their head up and it gives them kind of just that little of yes, I can do it. So I wanted to make sure I didn't just give up too quickly. So I do some putting the collar on, taking it off. I had also taken his other collar off, so I was interacting with his head a little bit without too much pressure on him, just to get him used to okay, we're going to put this on you, buddy. We're going to take this off you, buddy. We're going to reach for your head here and there. So he does become stressed to the point where he's not really taking cookies. But overall, I'm just looking that he's not darting out our doors and screaming. So we just hang out for a little bit. He is looking and interested in the person on the outside. So he does start to get very, he likes under the desk. So he loves to hang out under the desk. And I make a space for him to just kind of go there. So here you can see I'm putting the collar on, and he's just like, ugh, but that was his regular collar. So I made a little blankie space under the bed. And I think this was the next day. They all kind of blurred together since we did so many sessions in kind of one go. So when he enters the room and the doorway, especially when I start to interact with that, you'll see he still has that conditioning of the vibration with the collar. So I wanted to help with the confidence there. So I'm doing some recall. I'm doing some sending him back to a spot that he wants to go to. And we're just looking at like real communication here. So I ask him to sit. When he does, I say yes. I ask him to come here. When he does, I say yes, good boy. I ask for a few sits. Every once in a while, I'll ask for a paw because I know he knows that. And when a dog is insecure, asking for something that they know helps build that confidence. So we do a little bit of walking. I send him back to his spot. I ask for the sit, and he does. And then I start to interact with the door, and you'll see him become a little shut down here as well. So because the doorway was originally something he was like, I'm going to run through it. And then I gave him that pretty stern boundary of like, nope. He then was like, okay, I don't really know what to do here. So I picked up the leash to help him at first, but you'll see in the next few reps here, he starts to get really good at just like coming out on his own. And then to help him build confidence with the doorway itself, I do a little bit of just blocking his steps towards that. So you'll see that in just a second. Here I'm sending him to his blanket, and he was kind of like, wait, I don't know. So here's again another shutdown moment. He does some avoiding. He's like, I don't know. And again, this is just, he's on the slip collar, but because he was so impressionable with the vibration collar, with the screaming, he's really afraid to mess up. So I do these small little blocks of, I just kind of threw a cookie a little bit to the point where he was going to get up, and I told him okay. And then I threw a cookie a little closer to me, and I told him okay to go get it until he finally was all the way to me. And then I sent him back to his comfy spot under the desk. And that's where he was just kind of taking a nap when you first saw him. So because he struggles with doors and wanting to dart through them so much, I just really wanted to work that a little bit more. So again, here my setup is just my flat slip lead with him, nothing fancy, as well as the communication we've already been building. So we do some basic walking drills, which for me, I look to see eventually that the dog will follow me wherever I go. When I stop, they will stop and wait. Some dogs will sit, some dogs will just stand there. It depends on what your expectation is of them. What we can teach them to do. But here, in this moment particularly, I am moving towards the doorway, and he starts to like gallop a little bit towards it. So I give a or a this way, and I immediately start just moving back. And he hits the end of the leash, and it's like pop. And then he turns and comes with me. So after a few times of that, I start to give him the option of coming to me when I call him without the pop. So if he doesn't comply, like right there, he did awesome. I gave him lots of love. I let him jump up. I really cheered him on. And again, confidence building for him. I start to look at that I can verbally coach my dog rather than needing to steer them with the leash. So if he were to just hang out there for an extra second, I probably would have gave him like a pop there. But because he did come to me, the leash remained just kind of hanging the whole time. So here I'm gauging the pauses by the doorway. He's still interested in it to a extent. So we just kind of hang out there for a little bit and do a little bit of basic obedience. I call him away. And then at one point he really starts to just flow with me. And these are the things that make like training so awesome, is when your dog is just like, okay, I got you. This is what we need to be doing. This is our task. So now I'm holding the leash just with my fingertips and using verbal coaching for him. And you'll see at one point, I'm making this horseshoe motion around this lobby here, and I gradually get closer to the door. And there he was like, I think so. But when I kept moving, he was like, all right, I'll go with you. And then I get to about here, and he loses it. So that's why it's important to always just have that leash as the backup. And you know, I kind of refer to it as insurance, because it's like they could be doing great, but you just never know when they go into drive mode what they're gonna go after. And yeah, he would have just gotten to the glass door and then stopped. But the fact that he would have gotten closer on his own after I had coached him away from it would have been a win for him. So having that backup of the leash is really, really important, whatever stage of learning he's in, when it comes to, you know, these kind of exercises. So he's doing really good here for him, because I know he just is like, he's all about the doorways. So I'm using my body pressure. So that's the stepping kind of into him that you just saw, to back him up. Because going back to the leash just being insurance, if this was a doorway at your home and you didn't have a leash on him, you need him to understand what it means to back up and use the tools that you have on hand in that moment. So here, it's just when he got too far ahead of himself, I would step into him. As we get to kind of this doorway and he's close by me, I give it sometimes pop him on the leash. But for the most part, I try to see that he will just respond without the leash pressure. So here we're going into, he's stepped outside now, and he is like in Husky mode. Again, he's like, we're outside now. We're going to run around and sniff all the things. And I'm kind of just like, nope, we're just going to keep doing the same thing we were doing inside. And we're just going to go for a walk and have our manners. So at this point, he's getting pretty tired. We do the back and forth. He gets in that good flow, just like we were doing in the lobby. There was a bicycle riding by, so he got a little preoccupied with that. I asked for the sit. Here is where you'll see, like, this is what layering is. Layering is often referred to as generalizing, but I like to call it layering because you've set one kind of standard of you walk with me, you follow me, and then you layer on something more difficult, whether that be an environment change or another dog moving by or a bicycle, or in this case, we've kind of gone to the extreme and we've stepped all the way outside. So because he did well originally by the parking lot, I led him over to the grass and I let him sniff a little bit because I want him to also decompress. He's been doing pretty well. Over by the grass area was where he was most sloppy, but this is where I'm just going to kind of graduate him to next week and do more work here to get him a little more used to it. So we have cars, we have people, there's a El Pollo Loco literally right next to us, so it smells like chicken all over the place. There's trash on the ground. There's all these sensory stimulations going on for him, and his composure is still pretty ideal. He's not going crazy. He wasn't crying. He wasn't bouncing around. He was pulling a little bit. He was getting a little excitable, but it was not extreme. So what was silly is then when we got back to the doorway, he was like, I want to go inside now. It's just going through the doorways in or out makes them very excitable. So I asked him to sit and wait, and you can see there's a person next to us, and there's lots of cute photos of the dogs on the door. But I guide him back through the lobby. I ask him for a wait at the training room. He gets a little like overwhelmed here. I think this doorway is overwhelming for him because of the vibration collar originally. So I'm also going to do some like decompression work with him there. And after he came through, I kind of sent him to his safe space, which is under my desk. He loves it there. He sometimes is allowed to take naps there while I do some work, because I know he'll just get a little rest in and he'll be able to be quiet and calm. So, I mean, I just love this guy. I love watching these kind of processes unfold and them learn what our communication and expectation is of them. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video from wherever you're watching it. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me, and I will talk to you soon.